In this video, we will learn how to apply IUPAC, International Union of Pure and Applied Chemistry, toward the naming of thiols. Remember that thiols are molecules that have an SH group connected to a carbon chain or a carbon ring, such as the structure shown here in the upper right corner. By the end of this video, you will be competent at naming molecules such as this, as well as a variety of others. Let's go ahead and get started and take a look at the general rules for naming thiols using the IUPAC system. So I'm going to go ahead and head this as the rules of IUPAC for thiols. And these are the rules that you'll apply anytime you see an SH group present within the organic molecule that you are attempting to name. The rules for this are going to be very analogous to the rules for naming alcohols, which is why we covered alcohols in the last video. That was video number 326. In fact, as I write down the rules for this, I'm very much copying and pasting items from the rules for naming alcohols. So if you've got a good mastery of one of them, you should have a mastery of the other as well. So the first step for naming both alcohols and thiols is find the longest carbon chain that includes the carbon that is directly bonded to the SH group, or in the case of alcohols, that would be directly bonded to the OH group, and start numbering the chain from the end closest to the carbon that has that group. So we're going to number our longest carbon chain. That longest carbon chain has to include the carbon that's bonded to the thiol group. So number the longest carbon chain. That includes the SH group. So we'll start numbering that chain from the end closer to that thiol group. From there, step 2 is really the only step where the nomenclature for thiols diverges from that of alcohols, because in alcohols, the suffix of the parent name was OL to designate the molecule as an alcohol. That isn't going to work with thiols. So for thiols, instead, the parent name, the last part of the name, what we do is we take the corresponding alkane name, such as butane, and add the term thiol to the end of it. So butane thiol, for example. We will also, as was the case with alcohols, need to designate exactly where the thiol group is on the chain by using a number in front of that parent name. So what we will do here is for the parent name, the last part of the name is going to adopt the template alkane thiol. Where the alkane part of that name will indicate the number of carbon atoms, that longest carbon chain that we identified in step 1. And we'll use the same jargon there that we have in previous IUPAC nomenclature: methane, ethane, propane, butane, pentane, hexane, heptane, etc. And when we write down that parent name, we also need to designate the location of the SH group. So we'll include a number to specify which carbon of that chain has the thiol group bonded to it. And to put that into a template, we can write that in one of two ways. We can either put X dash alkane thiol, where X is the carbon number that has the thiol group. Alternatively, and equally well, we could put the term of the alkane, such as pentane, put a dash, X representing the numerical location of the thiol group, and then write the term thiol. Either of these are acceptable. I will let you know that in the most recent IUPAC rules, this second way of presenting the information is preferred, but you will see the information presented in both of these ways, and both are valid for purposes of IUPAC nomenclature in this class. So from there, in step 3 of our nomenclature system for thiols, completely analogously to naming alcohols and other types of molecules that we've named so far, such as alkanes and alkenes and alkynes, we need to now go in and name and number the branches that come off of the parent chain that we have identified, and we'll list those in alphabetical order as prefixes in front of the parent name that we determined there in step 2. So let's go ahead and write that out in some words. Name and number the branches on the chain, and we'll list those in alphabetical order at the front part of the name. With these guidelines in order, let's now go ahead and try to apply these towards some problem solving. I'm going to go ahead and zoom out on this and this, bring these up here into the corner so that we still have them to look at and refer to, but they're not front and center at the moment. And we'll go ahead and take a look at this practice problem to get us started with some of the IUPAC nomenclature of thiols. All right, so let's take a look at this molecule. We recognize first and foremost that it is a thiol molecule, so we need to use the rules that we've listed here to identify it. We find the longest carbon chain. That's the longest chain we can trace through the molecule without having to lift our pen or pencil or backtrack. And we'll start that chain at the end closer to the thiol group. So the thiol group is right here, so the end closest would be this carbon atom that's right here that I've put a green highlighter dot on. That is the carbon directly connected to the thiol. And that carbon, in fact, is the carbon at the very end of the chain. That's position number 1. So we come through tracing out our longest path. We get to here and we go, which way is longer? This way is going to be our longer path through. We get to here and we have 3 choices of places to go to find the longest chain: this way, or this way. We'll come up with the same name regardless of which of those 3 paths we choose, because they are each the exact same length and the exact same group. They're a methyl group in all cases. So I'll go like this just to make my zigzag line here. And that completes our carbon chain. Our carbon chain in this case, we can count that up as a total of 4 carbons. Per rule number 1, we start numbering from the end closer to the thiol group. So we number from here, 1, 2, 3, 4. That encompasses all of the atoms that are shown in green. It also encompasses the thiol group because our parent name is going to include that term thiol and indicate the position of the thiol group in that chain. Let's go ahead and knock that out of the way. Parent name, there in step 2, takes the template alkane thiol, and we have to specify X marks the spot of the thiol group. So in this case, we have 4 carbons in our chain. 4 carbons makes this referred to as butane. And then the term thiol, because there is a thiol group there, so butane thiol. We specify the location of the thiol group always if we have acyclic thiols, and that's at position 1, so we do 1 butane thiol, or alternatively, and just as correctly, butane 1-thiol would also be a completely acceptable way to refer to this molecule. Now with that, we've accounted for everything that is highlighted in green. Let's go in now and assess the groups that are shown in pink there. Those are our branches. So we have branch here, here, and here. I've run pink highlighter over all of those. In all 3 cases, each of these branches is a methyl group. Methyl here, methyl here, methyl here. So that is a trimethyl group because there are 3 of them. I'm going to go ahead and fill in the term trimethyl at the front end of the name here. And then we do have to specify where those 3 methyl groups are located. So trimethyl, and then dash 1-butanol. Always separate numbers from letters using dashes. And the 3 locations of the trimethyl group is one of those is at position 2, and then there's 2 of them here, both bonded at position 3, and therefore we would call this 2, 3, 3, list the number 3 twice because there's 2 methyl branches at position, dash trimethyl 1-butane thiol. You could have done the same thing down here in front of the term butane 1-thiol to name this molecule just as accurately as I've done up top. Let's try 1 or 2 more examples here of IUPAC nomenclature for thiols. I'm going to go ahead and make a more complex molecule this time to really test our knowledge and see what track we are on with naming thiol molecules. Okay, let's give this molecule a try. So in the case of this molecule, we start numbering from the end of the chain closest to the thiol group. And I'm going to highlight our longest carbon chain here in green. Longest carbon chain, we want to start at the end closer to the thiol group. So look at the thiol group. This is going to be the closest end to the thiol group that allows us to find the longest carbon chain that includes the thiol group. So let's start numbering down there and highlighting down there. So I'll go ahead and highlight that in. Highlighting, highlighting, highlighting. Continuing through to here. Longer path from this point is going to be coming this way. We get to this point, and the longer path is going to come down this way, because if we went this way, we'd only have 2 more carbons of our longest carbon chain, 1, 2. If we come this way, we have 1, 2, 3. So this is the correct route to take through the molecule. Going through the maze here, that's our longest path. Now, we recognize the thiol group is over here. And so to number that longest carbon chain, per the rules of step 1, we start from the end closer to where the thiol group is. So the end of the carbon chain is there, putting our thiol group at carbon number 3, following through this green chain here for all 8 carbons of that longest carbon chain. That's going to confer the name octane thiol as the parent name of this molecule. As always with acyclic thiols, we do need to specify where the thiol group is located. It's at position 3, so we'll call this 3-octane thiol. Synonymously, we could also have called this octane 3 thiol, like I'm writing out here. And then we need to come in and identify and name the location of the branches. We've highlighted everything that we've accounted for in the parent chain in green. So what we have left is everything that we haven't accounted for. I'll go ahead and highlight that. At position 4, we have a 2-carbon chain coming off 1, 2. So that would be an ethyl group at position number 4. So I'll just sketch that in here as 4-ethyl is what I will want to name that. Over here, we have this 3-carbon branch. Here's the first carbon, second carbon, and the third carbon's over here. When we have a 3-carbon branch and the connecting point is the middle carbon, we refer to that as an isopropyl group. And so this would be referred to as a 5-isopropyl group because it's branching off at position 5 of our longest carbon chain. Alphabetizing these, E comes before I in the alphabet, and therefore when we plug in the name for this, we will call this 4-ethyl 5-isopropyl, and then the parent name that we've listed there in green highlighter. Going ahead and plugging this in, 4-ethyl 5-isopropyl dash 3-octane thiol, or you could use those same prefixes and plug that directly onto the term octane 3-thiol. If you go that route, remember that you do not need this dash here if you use the approach down here, because you'd be running the term isopropyl directly into the word octane, and no dash is required when you're connecting letters. It's only when you're connecting letters and numbers that you use dashes. Now, with that information in hand, you should now be comfortable in naming thiols using the rules that we have applied here within this video. Stay tuned for the next video where we look at how we go about naming ether molecules.